I'll give you a brief project update. Not too much different than you saw last week, but we are at the end of our Sprint 46, which started at the beginning of the month, and we will be going into a 4-week sprint. Um, that's we usually do that around the holidays to make sure we have good amount of time for our stories develop, and that starts tomorrow and ends on 1/8. Okay, so there'll be a lot in that. There's actually a lot of our developers are don't have that much outage, so we're going to have a lot of stuff in that. Okay, we're currently working in discovery. That's requirements gathering, assessments, exits, and outcomes. I think we're close on the public-facing pages, customer-facing career plan, application landing page and dashboard, user roles, seating goals and objectives, and a few other things. Um, And then current development work, customer intake applications, service assignment, upgrades, employment outcomes, education enrollments, training plan upgrades, doing a lot of data migration and seeding with services and relationships, objectives and goals, user management and roles. So um, we got a lot of stuff going on, and we when we come out of this holiday period, we're going to have some UAT on most of those things you see down there in that development area. Today, we have Andy that's going to introduce a UAT on goals and objectives, and he'll give you all the methodology and process for that, of course. And then if we have time, I want to do a little discovery with you all on exits and outcomes, to get some feedback before we completely put a fork in this requirement set. So if we have time, we'll do that, but not rushing Andy. Andy, you can take over.
Andy, if I can butt in real quick, we just wanted to do,
Absolutely.
thank you. We just wanted to give everyone a reminder. I think we've had nine individuals do the user acceptance testing so far for pre-screening. So still quite a bit of feedback we're looking for from everybody. If that can be completed by Tuesday, 12/16 next week, that would be great. And if you have any questions on it or get stuck, please reach out to myself and Olivia and we can arrange a time to hop on a quick call. I know I've met with one or two people already just to make sure they felt comfortable moving through it. So do not be shy about reaching out if you need some assistance in getting started to get that completed.
Welcome, everybody. Today I am going to review goals and objectives with everyone. Give me just 1 second here. Here we go. All right. So for today, like I said, goals and objectives is our touch point. Homework areas for you this week. For goals and objectives, we want to be able to add a goal and objective. Goal and objective table, as well as being able to edit a goal and or objective. We ask that you please complete your testing and submit your feedback by December 23rd at noon. Um, Access through the UAT environment as well, again. Um, and then just the same as reporting and logging in any issues. So for goals and objectives, I will run through this real quick and then I'll demo it for you as well. Goals and objectives are one part of the customer's universal career plan. Objectives are a series of steps for the customer to take to complete their overall goal or goals, to obtain a job, career, complete a degree licensing program, or obtain additional training. Goals and objectives adapt based on customers' information. Objectives adjust dynamically based on the type of goal selected. For example, only objectives that would be relevant to completing an education goal will display if that Goal type is selected. Sorry, I had some serious typos in here. Okay. Um, and the universal career plan will be built with goals and objectives by a career coach. So navigating to the goals and objectives, you'll log into IWDS 2.0, navigate to the customer, yes, zoom in a little bit, navigate to the customer page, using the top banner bar to locate the customer page. You will search for your customer, so you can either type in their name in the search or scroll through and select their last name. Then that will take you to the navigating to the application summary. So once you've opened the customer profile, you'll scroll down to the application section. Then click the eyeball icon in the action field. Navigating to the goals and objectives, you will want to change the what area do you want to work in drop down field to career plan. Then click the goals and objectives tab. Next, click the blue add goals and objectives button to open the add goals page. And then completing the goals and objectives. So for personas, I've linked an updated version of the persona document. Um, One thing that we want to note here today is that to complete this process, the customer must have an application on file. Right now, we do not have a way for you to go in and add an application yourself. So the customers that are selected must have an application already completed. And I will show you that area just as a reminder as we walk through this. So let me go ahead and switch over, kind of catch up here. So customers tab at the top. I'm going to use Cindy Singh. So the number of applications has to be greater than 0 here for the customer to be able to be used. We will scroll down to the application. And at the end of the application section is the action. It's the view icon. From here, we will drop down to career plan and select goals and objectives. So this customer currently has no goals or objectives listed. Click the add goals and objectives. And here we can select. So we have employment, education, training, follow-up, or other goal not listed. Based on what you select here is what will pop up below. So we are going to add an employment goal. And then we have different ones that can, different identifying goals for employment. So this person would like to get a full-time or a long-term job in an industry that I haven't worked in before. This allows us to select a career cluster. Now, the career cluster right now is not required, because we know that sometimes there are customers who aren't quite sure where they want to work. But if they have an idea, we can come in here and select their career cluster. So they want to be in management. And this will be a long-term goal. And right now we have not started it yet. And I will get back to the status here in a minute. So she would like to have this completed by December of next year. And with that, the actual goal itself has been completed. The subprogram is based on the application, and that's pre-populated for you. There is a comments field as well for you to add any additional comments that you'd like. So one thing to note, the planned end date is the only field that can be filled in, and the rest of these dates will be based on services, which is not available yet. So at this time, you won't need to worry about those three fields. Below the goal is the add objectives. The objectives, again, are going to be based on the goal that was selected. And there is quite a few in here for this one. Um, so we'll start with they want to get help or they want to look up job information to see if there are good opportunities. Again, the status right now we're going to list as not started. And that, as far as adding an objective right now, that's the start of it. You could at this point either save the goal and objective if that's it, or you can add additional objectives. So let's go ahead and add a second objective, and it just pops up a new field below it. So we'll work with the career planner. And we're going to save the goals and objectives, hopefully. I had a little issue with it being a little slow today. Not sure what's going on. There we go. Whoop, click too many times. This error is known. Oh, it saved it twice. Okay. That's okay. I just clicked the button too many times. Um, so I guess this is a good opportunity. I can show you this. So um, we duplicated it by accident. And so we can go in by clicking in to any of these hyperlinks for the goal or the objectives. And it will take you directly to that. And we can just remove the goals and objectives. So if you accidentally create it, as long as it's not been assigned, it's okay, and we can remove it. So we'll remove those. Back to the career plan. Oh, it added it. Okay. You guys are seeing something here. Give me just a second. Sorry. I clicked the button apparently way too many times. Give me just a second here. Now it's taking them away. Okay, there we go. So now we just have the one goal and objective. So we're back on track here. Um, I don't know. I'm surprised I created that many. Um, so now we come back and we can edit these at any point, just the same as you were seeing me delete. So this person is now decided they're ready to get started. We're going to come in and they want to work with a career coach to find out if the current skills are needed by an employer in my area. So you can either click the edit goal or edit objective. And we are going to move this into in progress. Now it's going to let you know that we have a mismatch right now. Um, that one or more objectives have been started, so we need to update the goal. So with the status, you can't have a goal started if you don't have an objective started. So until one of the objectives is moved into an in progress status, we have to leave that goal as not started. But once you start any one of those objectives, now we can move that progress for the goal to in progress as well and save it. And so now we can see that this objective and this goal are in progress. And at this point, that is kind of the endpoint for where we are right now within UAT. Any questions or comments at this time? Okay.
What did you say? Did I mishear you? Did you just say that like the objectives are driving the goals or the goals are driving the objectives? Because I'm confused.
So in which part? So there's objectives are going to be the objectives available will be based on the goal selected. However, you cannot start a goal until you start an objective to complete that goal.
So, Crystal, we have logic baked in that says like you can't have a goal not started, but all your objectives open. And you can't have a goal complete, but all your objectives in progress are not started. The system is looking to make sure those things align so that you're not having mismatched data to say I'm done with my goal, but I'm still working on my objectives. Like that does not make sense. The system will not allow data discrepancy.
Okay. But as you're inputting it, you can't set up an open goal. Like as you're going, like I'm trying to think like through the process of it. It seems like a lot of back and forth. So what you're saying is that you can't go in and put in a goal and say, okay, I'm going to open this goal and now I'm going to go and I'm going to pick the objectives that go with it. What you're saying is you put in the goal, but it's not open. You go into the objectives, you pick your objectives, then you got to go back to the goal to open it to say,
No,
make
you
me
can
my
put it
goal.
as open. When you go to save it, it's going to look to see like if you have an open goal, then you should have an open objective.
Yeah,
Okay.
the way I did it was I came back in that we'll say that person came back in later. But yeah, as you set it up, you just have to have the open objective with the open goal. You can't set the other ones to not start. You can't set any objective to not or all the objectives to not started.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're like, I think Andy went in like you built an initial career plan and you don't have anything started yet. You're just like drafting what you're gonna do. But if you're building it and they're like starting it that day, then you can have your goal as open and the open objective is open, no problem, and save
Okay.
it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a question on, so I mean, a person's going to have potentially several objectives, right? So if they decided to go a CDL route and find employment, it would be, like 4 or 5 objectives that you would create for that person. But let's just say for some reason they, can't pass the permit or whatever, and so they don't they change completely in direction and they decide to go for like an associate degree. You're going to have a whole new set of objectives for that career path. So how does that work? Do you just add those objectives and then mm, is there a way to mark the old objectives as like not applicable or to distinguish between the two pathways that you had, what applies to what?
And also, thank you for that too. The question is there going to be a limit? Because we don't want to keep on building up goals and objectives over and like Andrew was just saying, how can we stop something from continuing if that objective or goal is no longer needed?
So you can discontinue goals and objectives if they're no longer needed. And when you pick that discontinue option, you can I can't remember the two reasons off the top of my head, but it's going to ask why you're discontinuing, and one of them is like this is no longer relevant, and the other one is more like almost like an unsuccessful completion versus not relevant. So yeah, if you pick discontinue, discontinue reason was not achieved, no longer applicable. And then you can discontinue those items so that you can still see like they were originally planned and the goal had changed.
I'm just wondering, is there a possibility, and this could be a nightmare, but a possibility of the goals and objectives being like self-contained per career pathway?
I'm not
So
sure
like
what you
if it was
mean.
all just CDL, there would be a CDL, goals and objectives for CDL and employment, right? And then
Yep.
all of that would be under that tab. And then if they decide to change, right, then you could have another goals and objectives tab for, associate degree in business, and all the goals and objectives will be under that tab for that specific because it's going to need signatures, right? Because it's a change.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you can clearly see what was there for CDL, and that's no longer needed because now they've changed, and these are all the objectives and goals for this particular career pathway that they've changed to. And sometimes they may have three changes, right? Especially
Yep.
youth. They might change three times, and you have to revise everything three times. But I'm just wondering if all of those were consolidated into this just one path here. It's going to get confusing as to, I think, what was established for what pathway, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so in the scenario you were talking about, you would have like so this employment goal is specific to management. So that could be like the CDL. And then they change and you would have your you would add a new goal for the new track, whether it's employment or training. And we can look at having a better way to essentially once they're discontinued, maybe having a way to like filter those out, like a toggle to like get rid of discontinued items. So you
Okay.
have a more clean view of like what we're actually working on with the ability to flip to see like all the discontinued. And then in signatures and the log, you're going to see like when they've had a re-sign essentially for a modification because you changed their career plan. So we can definitely look into like a cleaner view in scenarios where they've like changed and you've lost some things and you don't necessarily needing the discontinued cluttering up your view.
I thought I saw you could delete that objective when you had it open when you were changing it from discontinued. Did that remove
There
object?
there
Yeah.
there are options, but if you have started services under them, you're gonna get some messaging and those buttons might disappear.
Yeah.
So once you've started engaging in them, you cannot remove them. You have to discontinue. And that will be a little more clear when we have services tied to it. Because we don't want to lose work that you guys have like done by completely removing it and all the child relations that it might have if it's a goal to objectives and services and if it's objective to services.
And then I just have one more comment on so when we start testing this and we create an objective and we create a goal and an objective, if it's not open, it's the start date for those objectives are not going to activate, right?
Sorry, say that again.
So when we create the objectives, so as we're testing it, when we create the objectives and the goals,
Hmm.
if they're set to, I forget what the status is, but is if they're not active, right? They're not open. They're not open. Um, then the start date for those objectives and goals aren't going to populate, correct?
Right. And I don't know if you guys remember, it's been a while now. You're not setting dates on goals and objectives. Those are going to auto pull from the services you tie to them.
With the
Oh,
exception of the planned end date.
Yeah, with that exception
so it's
for
going
a
to
goal.
So it's
Yeah,
going to
for the goal.
auto-populate the start date based on a service activity?
Yep,
Yeah, you'll tie the service to the goal
the
or
objective.
objective, sorry. And that's what auto populates at that point.
Okay, so when we do a service, eventually, when we are able to enter a service, on the service, it's going to say, what does this service, what objective or goal does this service tie to? And you have something that you click on saying this service or this objective, and then that will populate it.
Yep, and we're also looking, Laura's doing some work on how, as part of this process, we can streamline it to even allow you to build out goals, objectives, and services. We're still working in the service part, but this will be a very streamlined process to associate those things. And then we're working to have it roll up as much data as it can to minimize the amount of duplicative data entry, especially around date points that you have to add.
Thank you.
I see a question in the chat, and Cassie, I see you have your hand up. I was half typing, but struggling to multitask.
It's okay.
Um,
Yeah,
y-
you can go ahead and respond to the question in the chat because I got a million questions in my head. So I'm trying to just kind of keep up with them. So as far as the for the new system, you're going to put in because I'm just trying to understand with the objective being tied to a service. Is that what I heard from Andy?
The a service, yeah, to the objective.
Okay. So the service is going to be tied to the objective. So when you go into the application, you putting in a service for the Universal Career Plan, and then it's going to automatically link to the I guess whatever objectives you're putting in. Is that is if that makes sense?
yeah, so when you add a service, it's gonna give you the list of objectives that you've already built in the career plan to associate it with. And we're
Mm-hmm.
looking at further refining it to like
Okay.
make it, because some services are going to be, apply to specific objectives. So we can just give you that shorter list too. If you happen to have like 20 objectives, we want the system to pull back the relevant objectives that would tie to that service. And so you would pick that. And by tying that, you're essentially tying that service to an objective, which is also tied to a goal. So then we can roll all the dates up.
Okay. And then I think you was probably trying to respond to my previous question. Will they be predefined objectives?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then there's always the option to add other. So if we're gonna have those predefined goal and objective list, but always know you can add other if you have a customer who fits a unique situation.
Okay.
And
Thanks,
then
Olivia.
for your question in the chat, um, if a career planner discontinues objectives, this means the objective to meet
Mm,
the goal will change. Does the career planner need to update signature for objective? We have the system automating modifications.
okay.
So we're gonna have more visibility on that, but possibly Andy, if you go to the signatures tab, it might be the first one, but when you change, if you click on that signatures tab, Andy, um, this one is not yet set, but if it had been signed, the status would change to like signature modification signature required, and we're going to
Okay.
make that more visible. You're only needing to do a modification when you make a change to an employment or training goal or objective that is changing the status to like discontinued. Like if you're just changing it from like not started to started, it's not going to trigger. Um, and we'll have more training around exactly when a modification would happen. So users are aware, and then we'll also flag it here, like visually and on dashboards, that you've triggered the career plan in a way that now requires a signature because it meets the definition of a modification.
Okay. So currently, when a goal changes, if they change a goal, it's like they change it from in employment to education or vice versa, then of course they right now the rule of thumb is that they need to get an updated signature. But I
Hmm.
think I just heard you say now with the new, I guess I'm quite sure policies is going to be coming out with this. The objectives, if they change or be modified, they also need to get a signature.
Yes,
Okay.
if they are like discontinued, or if you like add a new one after it's been signed, it'll trigger for a signature.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, so you will need objectives. Allison had a question in the chat that I'm answering. And then I also put a link in the chat. Andy, if you wouldn't mind opening that up really quick.
Absolutely.
Um, it is the same like high level flow. And then I put additional yellow boxes further down for where you're at in Andy's part of UAT, where we're building the initial career plan. So they in this part they have completed the application. For youth, that the one Andy's showing right now is kind of the youth. Those three things can happen, together in various orders. And then the other one is if you're flowing down the adult dislocated worker track, they have to go through cert and assessment, then career plan building. So that's kind of where we're at in the flow of intake before they start getting like starting services. So just a little visual and some context there to kind of like where we're at in the process and what would have been done before we got to this part. We've talked a lot about assessment. I've got some finalization on the getting started assessment. So we're slating eligibility cert for development. Next, application is currently in it. Pre-screen is being wrapped up. We're going to get your guys' feedback from UAT, and that will finalize development and pre-screening. Then we're going to wrap up application, get that to you guys to UAT, and then we'll be starting work on eligibility certification, development, and then getting started assessment development. So those two things are slated for UAT in early-ish 2026. That's all I had to add, Andy. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to go over with them or if we're going to open it up for questions.
I'd say questions, if there's any others.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, that's all I've got then.
I thought we talked about the whole idea of the planned start dates, the planned end dates, all the back and forth, that when it was going to auto-populate from services, like a hard start date for some of them, is the planned start date then going to disappear? Or did we talk about why would you even bother to have the planned start date if it's going to pull the start date from is tied to your services? Like, I can't remember the details of that conversation, but I know that there was something in there because we didn't want it to be cumbersome.
So there's no planned start dates in goals and objectives. Those will all pull from services. We have a
Okay.
planned end date and a goal, which
Okay.
will override with the services once those are added.
Okay.
Did I misunderstand your question?
No, I just thought when he was clicking through the different screens, I thought I saw planned start dates on different screens.
Yes, go
So
ahead,
they're
Andy.
there. Yeah, they're there, but they're actually, you know what? Let me go back.
They're
Let me start a
Okay.
new
grayed
one.
out.
Yeah, they're grayed out
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
So they're there for visualization once we add those services.
You can only edit the planned end date.
Yeah.
If you think it would be better, Crystal, like we just don't see the dates at all in goals and objectives, like don't even see them grayed out, and we'll just populate them on the table in the preview, but you can't see it in the edit mode. That you guys can note that in the UAT guide as you're going through this, if that's like throwing you off, like, oh, how am I? We tried to add that blue box text, but if that's not enough and you guys keep trying to figure out like how am I supposed to get these dates open? How do I add that? Definitely note that in the UAT because there's we can hide those in other ways if it's causing confusion just having them in the space where you're trying to edit this stuff.
So by not having a date, that might not be a bad idea because we got so much date going on with other stuff. And just to have it would be, I mean, not to have it, but just to have the goal and objective, I think might be good. I mean, I agree with not having a planned start date on the goals and assessment part of it. But we'll see what the team say.
All I know is that I saw it flash up there and I'm like, I'm confused. But
Yeah, on the edit page too, if you go back to the one where you're viewing one, that might have been where you were really seeing it because we were on that page for what right here.
yeah, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and those will just like auto populate as the services come in with the service dates. Um, but yeah, they're not pulling from goals and objectives. So again, we can hide that stuff if it's causing confusion. Like, oh no, I need to change that. I better go in here and do it when it really is services where that's happening.
So this will populate once a training service will be entered. Am I hearing that correctly? That it would follow based on if they're taking some kind of health training or medical or something, CDL or computer. It would trigger
Mm,
from the training line to over here,
no,
something like that.
it'll trigger whatever enrolling services are tied to this objective. It will use that
Give me an
earliest date.
give me an example of how that will work, if you can. Just so
Yeah.
I'm clear.
Yeah, so this is get a long-term job in an industry and management that I haven't worked in before. I don't remember off the top of my head what services we said would belong in that line or under that. Well, so this is a goal. So go ahead and open up objective, Andy. So say, what is this objective? Work with a career planner to find out current skills that are needed by employers in your area. So can you guys give me some examples of services you might provide to support that objective?
It could be anything. It could be like resume help, helping them on their resume. Are you talking about before they get into training or what,
Yep. Like
like, go ahead.
with like short-term pre-vocational or like job search assisted.
Okay, we could go with the job search assistant.
So I would add that service and I'm starting it tomorrow and they're going to do it for 2 weeks. And maybe there's another service that I'm going to add that I'm going to start with them in a week. So tomorrow would be the like that's my planned start date and that's when I actually end up starting it. It would populate that date tomorrow as the objective start date for planned and actual, and then the furthest end date of those two services. So I'm in one in 2 weeks and I'm in the other in 3 weeks. And I end up hitting my planned and my actual. So they're going to be the same date. My end date would be 3 weeks out because it's looking at all the services combined under that objective. And it's going to use the earliest possible date as the start date, whether it's planned or actual, and the latest possible date of all the services under that objective as your end date. And in this situation, there's two objectives. So I think there's the one we're looking at and there's one right above it. So for your goal, it's going to look at both objectives and use the earliest possible start date and the latest possible end date for your goal across spanning all objectives. Does that make sense?
I want to say yes. So something like doing job club, screening, self-directed job search, all of that would somehow tie into the objective, but that's correct?
Yeah, so if you're given enrolling or self-information only services and they're tied to that objective, then it would roll up into that objective.
What about follow-up after they finish the program? Does anything have to be done with the follow-up part of this? If does the goal and objective dealing with
There,
follow-up after they complete their training and we
yep,
exit that?
there's a follow-up goal and then subset like preset follow-up objectives too that you would manage there, and all those services would roll up under those goals and objectives.
Okay.
Any other questions? There's nothing else. Well, we're going to pass it over to Al to go over some stuff with you all. We'll have the UAT notebook and all the resources sent out to you for this that you guys can go over by the 19th. And then again, same thing. If you have any questions, definitely let us know.
Hi, okay. I didn't know if I had my unmute. Okay, let me bring up the Miro board that I want to discuss today. And let's get our exits and outcomes thinking caps on. And let me find out. Okay. Got this. All right. Do you all see this Miro? I'll make it a lot closer to you here in a minute, but I want to start over here. So some of the changes we're proposing, and changes meaning some changes to some of the stuff you haven't even seen yet, but that's okay. You'll get to it. We'll be into UAT shortly in probably January with a lot of this stuff that's being developed. So in the career plan, you just saw, I believe, Andy just pulled down this what area you want to work in. And I can actually pull it down myself here. If I go to customers real quick and I find somebody and I pick up one of these applications, that's this drop down right here where we have intake, career plan, and outcomes. And Andy just took you to career plan. And then he took you to goals and objectives tab. Okay. So as you can see, career plan has these tabs. We're going to talk about this first, and we're going to add a tab to this that's called transition. This is what our proposal is here. And this is in the career plan. So you get career plan, and this is kind of a representation of that page you just saw right here. Okay. And we are pushing in this transition tab into this area. Okay. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute, what does it have to do with exits and outcomes? You're in the career plan because we are talking about the preparation and the process of during the 90-day period where we have our last service. We think we have our last service that we've provided, and we are just in that 90-day period before exit. Okay. There's a lot here, so you're going to have a lot of questions. But in the new system, the system is going to automatically exit individuals according to rules. Okay. You don't start an exit process. However, we want to make sure that an individual, that the career planner has done everything they need to do. You've checked on every piece of the services, the goals and objectives, and made sure that all those are in, completed credentials, MSGs, employment and education enrollments are all in the system leading up to that exit point. Okay. So we we're calling that the transition period. So that's a transition tab that you would go to. And you may or may not, when you go to this transition tab, you may or may not be really ready for exit, because if some of these things like um, like you have open services, those kinds of things, then you're not really ready. Okay. If we get to the point where uh, we are ready, okay, in other words, the system knows this, right? The system knows what the last, if there's any open services, and obviously services are tied to goals and objectives, so it will know if this person is in a position that we're essentially exiting. Then at that, when the system does know that, it will, our system allows that this field here, this transition reason field will be available. Transition reason field, I haven't got all those yet, but most likely, for example, it is no more services are being assigned, or last service has been assigned. And then of course, remember that there's also exclusion from performance measures, that are certain reasons there that could be also assigned there. So this screen, let's take a look at this page. So remember, your information about the individuals at the top, customer profile, which is in this section right here, right? And then your application summary area, which tells you what programs and all that, is right here. So this is just, there's nothing changed there. This is always on that page. Sometimes when you look into the old system, or you look at the system, you might look at this and say, well, wait a minute, why don't I have the customer name and all those different things here? Because they're always on the page if you want to go up and look at them. Okay. All right. So, but the general transition information, we have the AWIA, the office, their career planner assigned. We're thinking about, potentially that we could change that through this edit according to the appropriate role and all that. And then this is a last communication date. It's just information that we thought would be nice and handy. You'll notice it has a link. And so that link could take us to case notes or whatever, the last communication. Last service end date is right here, okay, which tells you all the time where we're at as far as in our exiting process. Last service received, we would put that name here, just so you know. And then days since the last service, this particular is probably 57 now because I had this test case a few days ago, but or day yesterday or the day before. But anyway, that's 56 days since the last service. And then the exit date, if no further services are provided, would be 1/13/2026. So this is kind of the general information for this participant right now that is potentially here close to getting to exit, right? Okay. The next section is designed to provide kind of a checklist. Okay, what do I need to make sure of prior to this exit? What should I be thinking about for this particular customer participant? And we provided credentials, MSGs, measurable skill gains, employment, education enrollment. What this does is basically allows the career planner to check if they say, yep, I've got everything in there that I could possibly know about, that's all in there. They also, with this link, allows them to go over to the credentials section. So we didn't bring the credentials section or the measurable skill gains. So just as a peek at that, we didn't, what that would do is if you click that link, it would go over here into here and take you to this section. or it would take you to this section or this section or this section. We didn't repeat that in this scenario. We didn't repeat that right there. But what it's because we have, right, this is outcomes during participation we're talking about, and we just want to make sure that those outcomes are all tracked. Okay. So that's what this is. We've also put the latest completion date for any credential or any measurable skill games or employment. This is what we're thinking here. Okay. You could, and the reason this is NA is could be there are no educational enrollments, right? Okay. And you checked it. So we just want to make sure that there's a way to show that, hey, there wasn't any. And I checked it. So
On that note right there, how you say education enrollment, does that apply to OJT or paid work experience or just for occupational skill training?
I don't think that applies to OJT or
Paid work experience.
work-based. Is that
Yes.
UBL, work-based learning?
Yes.
But I don't know. Olivia, you know that? Olivia is
Can you
still on.
repeat the question?
Does educational enrollments, do we capture OJT and WBL? We don't capture that there, do we?
No, are the educational enrollments, those are the things that they're getting outside of WIOA funded.
Ah, yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. So those enrollments are not the ones we have in educational enrollments are not training from WIOA, uh, but
But
more
but we
for
do
OJ,
put
general.
OJT and paid work experience into IWDS and we
Yeah,
track it.
you'll track that through the service. The educational enrollment is the piece for second quarter post exit or an employed second quarter post exit. But for youth, it's employed or in education. So we need to track when they're getting education outside of WIOA for performance. That's what the education enrollment piece is here. We will track OJT and like enrollment in education through WIOA training in those services.
Does that make sense, Robert? The
Okay,
services,
okay.
yeah, services that are training services and all that or OJT and all that will is where you'll have tracking on all that enrollment because that's supplied through WIOA.
Okay.
This would be like, okay, uh, I'm in a community college course outside of WIOA. Okay, and then remember, like Olivia said, we'll get to this, but it's tracking the employment obviously is an important thing on exiting, and then for youth, we still get performance numbers when you track education enrollment. So going forward with education. Okay. All right. So that's that section there. And if you think of anything else we're missing there, don't hesitate.
Al,
Yes.
the exit date is somewhat misleading because the exit date would be October 15th. January 13th would be the first day we could enter it.
You're right. That's the 90 day. You're actually correct. That's not the exit date. That's the exit will go back to the last service date. You're correct. Very good catch. You're correct. That language is not correct. Correct. Yes.
The first
That's just the
first
90
day,
days after
right.
last service. Yep. That's a very good catch. Let me put a note on that. That label is not very good. Okay. So
I know because I often exit them at 109 days, so I I have to pay very close attention to that.
okay, cool. Yeah, that is exactly right. I want to put that right there for us. Okay. Um, and then this section here is kind of the career planner is going in and actually adding at this point, this will be ready when this is past 90 days. And um, they can set this, and when they set that, this will set automatically. Okay. And then participant is employed at transition, okay, which is important for us to know. If yes, we're pulling over those employment records here. And if obviously you don't see one here, but if it's not there, you can go ahead and add it. Okay. Um, and then the participation is role in education and at transition. Of course, this is youth important, and we will, if you don't see it down there, you can track that by adding it right there. You don't have to pop back over in this scenario because we're in that transition. Okay, so this is kind of a new thing. It's not, you're saying, well, wait a minute, this kind of takes care of, in a sense, if anybody's familiar with IWDS, the exiting process, so to speak, there's an exiting process, and you manually say, I'm ready, I mark this for exiting. I start an exiting process in IWDS 1.0, the current one. And this is a kind of a substitute for that process, okay? Because really, we haven't exited yet, and we're in.
Kind of a checklist. As a performance manager, this is what I do with my career planners every day is I walk them through the transition. So like when it comes to employment during transition, one of our goals is to close all the jobs that have ended.
Nice.
We don't like to leave jobs open
Yeah,
because it's the system automatically is calculating wages that they're not earning.
that's good. And so when you click that, it takes you to that employment records. You can go in and close those out if you want to. That's very good. And maybe that's something we need to make a little. I think we're going to have a couple things here. We're going to have a little bit more guidance with some info buttons and all info icons and stuff like that. And then we're going to have, um, I'll show you a little later where we're going to have a section to have some guidance that's going to be actually right on the screen, and not even requiring an info bubble to look at. And that will help in the process of follow-up services. Okay, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so this is our idea for transition, and it'll come from right here in the career plan and this transition tab. Okay. The second one, I just want to give you, and you'll get a chance to really give us some crushing feedback when we get this a little farther, but I just wanted to, and I'll should be able to share that requirements document with you also a little later. The second one is change that we're thinking about is we want to make sure that um, uh, we're changing this around so that outcomes, if you look today on this, you will see if we went to um, out, actually, we have intake, career plan, and outcomes. Okay. And then on the outcomes, which you go to all the time, is it has exit status, follow up, and post exit outcome. Okay. We're changing this so that outcomes will just be outcomes, and then you'll have a new tab called follow up. Okay. So and then in the follow up, you'll have a new area, I'm sorry. And in the follow-up area, you're going to have general and exit information, occurrence or activity, and then employment and education. Okay. Now, let's kind of walk through these, what the purpose of these three tabs are. Okay. First of all, um, this is very, for those who are very familiar with the current system, not to make anything the same, but not to change something for the course of change. This is kind of our overview summary page where it has the exit information, exit date, the employment at exit, if there's employment, obviously, the transition reason, uh, and then first quarter after exit status, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. And unlike today, we brought in, if we have them, obviously, we brought in those employment record names, not just that red thing that says, oh, we got wages from employment security. We got, hopefully, we'll have the information who the employer is, and you'll be able to see if they're switching jobs and stuff like that in here when you kind of look back at this. Obviously, the wages may be different too. And this is the periods here that we have on a general exiting information screen. Okay. The next, which is pretty familiar if you're familiar with IWDS, the next one is a little bit more involved. Okay. So this one, and those that are familiar more with in the Chicago area with Career Connect, uh, there are a lot of features in Career Connect, I think, that are covered here that are like this with some tweaks. But this is our occurrence and activity grid. When you go in here, it provides the activity. This is the quarter, and you'll see here. These dates may not be exactly right, but these dates show the every month in the first quarter, and then once a month in the other three quarters. I'm sorry, one time in the other three quarters, and these probably would be more like the end of the quarter. But um, the idea is this will once we exit, this will generate these rows automatically. Okay, it'll automatically be sitting here, um, and then when sometime before that date, or the date after, the career planner should be in here and doing this, adding one of these. So you'll notice here, there's an icon to view the one that exists, and there's an icon to add a new one right here for this one right here. Okay. So we have the activity, we have the follow-up status, which is the status of the activity. Okay. And then we have the contact status, which is um, during this contact, did we get contact or not? So we're trying to do this particular follow up, and we have not been able to contact him yet. We had maybe one attempt, and we still haven't, but we're going to keep some attempting here until we get some kind of answer or a ghost, so to speak. Let me get a grab some water real quick. All right, sorry about that. Okay.
So currently, this would be a case note only, Al. Are we saying that this would be in addition to a case note, or this will generate a case
Yeah,
note?
and I'm thinking that we could also generate a case note from this, but let me show you what we have here on this page for attributes. Okay. Okay. This is where we add or edit activity. Okay. It'll say edit if it's already been added. It'll say add the first time. You select that contact date. This is the date you actually contacted them. So obviously, if you did it Friday and you didn't decide to put it in until Tuesday, that's fine too. So you have to select that contact date. The contact method, phone, email, text, face to face, whatever that contact method is. And then the contact status, right now I have pending and complete. So if I did not get a hold of them, obviously we got to put pending in there.
What kind of contact method you have under the phone?
That's what I said, phone, email, text, face to
Oh,
face.
it's not a drop down, so you can't
That's
open
going to
up
be
the.
a drop down. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I should have had those in one of these to show you what those drop downs were, but yeah. Okay. And then we have the follow-up activity provided, and this will be a selection from, if you're 1A and 1D, these are the follow-up activities, counseling individuals, contacting individuals, assisting individuals. These are all what you'll see in this drop down if this is a 1A, 1D program. If this is a 1Y, this is the follow-up activities that you'll see appear here. Okay. And then you'll have these statuses over here, ongoing, opt out, that's youth only, unable to locate, youth only, then not responsive, adult or dislocated worker per policy, and then there cannot be located, adult or dislocated worker per policy, and refuses to provide information, adult dislocated per policy. So those status settings will be available to you based upon if you're youth or adult also. Okay. All right. This date completed will just automatically be set whenever this is complete and this is saved. Okay. This won't be set until this is complete. This down here is a little grid that allows you to add an attempt, a contact attempt. So when you hit this, you'll get a little modal that shows that you can put notes in to say, okay, and you can select the method. I tried to contact them by phone. I left a voicemail, whatever. Okay. And then you can go back and edit these also. But that'll give you the date, the method of the attempts you tried here. Okay. And then for the whole activity, you can add this. This is where you're saying, well, today we just add a case note when we have these types of things going on. You'll be able to add it right here, your activity notes to this activity. Okay. Then that gets stored in the system and you can go back to it at any time. You can view it, and if you view it and you need to edit it, we'll have a way you can do that, change to edit mode. And then you can also add other ones. Okay.
I
If,
like the looks of this,
go ahead.
Al. It saves us time training career planners on how to put in a follow-up case note. This is
Yep.
a
Yep.
good, helpful template.
Good, good. Because that's what we're trying to do is trying to say, okay, where do I go? But the case note, what is it? And we are trying to get some good information around that. Like, hey, we can find out, all kinds of information here with, how are we being able to contact folks and how are we able to, how many times is it taking us, or how many times do we get ghosted or whatever, right? All those kinds of different things we can find out by you guys just flapping in this data. And it also gives you guidance on, hey, what should I be doing here during this process? Now, like I said, we're also going to put at the bottom, because this is pretty fixed, obviously, we're also going to put at the bottom of here, expand this whole area, and we have a whole bunch of guidance questions that you could see, and the career center can see and use as information when they're working with the participant, or the actually not participant anymore, the exeter. Okay, so we're going to have that in this expansion area down here at the bottom of this window, because this window is not huge, and it'll be there all the time. You can go down there, scroll down there, and look at it, and say, okay, I'm preparing myself for this. Now I'm going to go in here, add, and I can see that information when I start deciding, to talk to this individual. Okay. So that is our kind of our new occurrence and activity, or activity screen. The next one, which is this employment and education, it's just, we pulled in right here, we're just pulling in from that outcomes area. We're pulling in those widgets, controls, or whatever for follow-up employment. And this allows us to put in that follow-up employment. And remember, inside that employment, I'm going to even show you that here in a minute. You have all kinds of tracking information that you can track about that employment, not just what's showing here. Because if you have this right here, which you guys haven't seen this yet, but if you have this right here, you can add a column to this or not, which is stuff like wages and wage type and those kinds of things. And I think I'll have time to show you that. And then you'll have follow-up education, of course, for youth. You'll see this for youth. And then you have follow-up credentials. We always like to put those in here too. And these components are the same components that we have in the outcomes area. We'll just bring them in here, okay? And then you'll be able to set those up. And then, of course, if we don't get some kind of a match, IDS match or whatever, on that employment, it's important to get that entered manually so that it shows up here on this page here. Okay. So that's your three here tabs. You have, for this, you have the general exit information tab, the occurrence or activity tab, and then the employment and education tab. Okay. And you'll be able to, so you get kind of everything at your fingertips. This is there's some similarities to the way IWDS worked, and some similarities to where the folks from Chicago and their tool works. We hope there's some familiarity, but we try to get this a little bit more streamlined and helpful to you when you have folks in that exiting process. Questions? Good comments. So questions.
So basically, Al, what I'm looking at here, the general and exit information, in the current IWDS, you can enter the employment and education on that screen.
But
And what you've done is just pulled it off and put it on a different screen.
well, you can't, you have to hit an update button anyway on that screen, and yet
Yeah.
it brings up another screen. Yeah. So if you see here there's not employment, you would just you just touch this right here, right? This is one click because you're still here. So you'd click that, and then that would show you, you click that tab and it would show you this screen. So you look at the edge, you look at your employment, you'd say, oh, yeah, I need to add a record. And you just do that. So it's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit different. We could have a link here. Um, in fact, that's not even the link we want, but we could have a link here. Um, that is, but you're correct. There is a way to update the employment record. I think more than just employment though, but I think you can update employment record with this update link. There's an update button right here on the
Yeah.
system. Yep.
Al, just in case you're not aware of this, that sometimes career planners are anxious to add to the work experience or add the new job, but then it will often populate through IDES somewhere down the road. So
Correct.
sometimes
Correct.
we end up with duplicates. And so we often encourage our career planners to drag their feet entering a new job, see if it shows up first, and then add the details later. But
That's okay. I mean, that doesn't hurt anything. But because you still have the same kind of capabilities and options to see if it comes through. But just the only thing we get from them, and well, I don't think that's gonna change, is we just get wages, right? So,
well, on the work history screen, we get start date and name of
oh,
the
I'm sorry, you do.
company and
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. You
yeah,
get start date and end date. And if it comes from IDS, I think you get start date and end date, or start date and
and
maybe
quarterly
going,
wages.
there's a type or status maybe or something like that. If there's
Yeah.
no end date, yeah, yeah. You're correct. You're correct.
And we add the title and the codes and all of that.
Yep, yep. And I'll just pop over there. This is something that just, I mean, like is being tested. So if there's any problems with it, I apologize in advance. But if I go into here, then this is my add employment and search employer. This is kind of interesting because if I searched for I could search for anything. I could search for Swift, say Swift trucking. If I search for Swift trucking here, this will search entity management, of course, to see if we have any in our entity management. Okay. It'll also search Dun and Bradstreet right here, and you can look for records that have a name with Swift. And you can see if those are there. So if I do, I could say, yeah, oh, well, I could say, let me see here. I want to say, here's one I want to say is here. I check that, shows you that. And then I can just go on and continue and use that selected one to add this employment record. Okay. And I have a lot of fields on here. I got employer name and all that course up front. And then I've got a start date here. I can set an end date or not, and employment status, still employed, enter employment, job title, a job type, full-time, part-time, temporary, seasonal, whatever. Job duties, you can just enter that's a free form field. And then we have this wages, wage type. This is going to be switched around. This isn't a bad order. But if wage type is hourly, you can put in wages and hours per week. You'll be able to put in year. And then if it's a truck, sometimes truck drivers get paid by the mile. You can put mile, and this is going to say miles per week. Allows you to put the NAICS code in here and search for that if you want to search. Um, and or maybe I need to, might be transportation or something like that. Here it is, probably one of these somewhere. And then I can also search for an ONAD code in a very similar way. I could say maybe transportation. I don't know what it is. Um, and then um, and then I can go in ahead and add information like a contact name, contact phone, and then any comments And I could save this record. Let me go ahead and do this. Here, let me put in full time. I think that's enough. So then that record shows up right here, Swift Trucking Incorporated. So that is employment, and then education is kind of similar. You can add education in that area. So I just wanted to kind of show you that you're going to get to see this and play with it pretty soon, not too far from now. So any
Let me
other?
ask you, yeah, let me ask you a question about that employment. I know
Mhm.
IDS upload information, y'all upload, well, the state uploaded employment information in client's record in IWDS.
Correct.
Is this going to happen in the new system?
Yes.
And how, when you go back to that employment screen, would it show us there or would it show someplace else?
We can bring it into there, and you'll know we'll have an indicator that tells you it came in from IDS.
And will we be able to update that screen from
Yeah.
IDS?
Yeah, there's no reason you can't. The thing that you have today is the only way I think you know is they're like capital letters or something
Yes.
is the only way you know, but we'll have an indicator that we brought it in from IDES.
Okay. Let me ask you, you was talking about the measurable skill gain on that one screen, but I don't see no completion of data or anything. My question would be, would that screen indicate when a MSG is required? Because to my understanding, every year you're supposed to update that measurable skill gain. But I don't see nothing latest. Maybe towards the youth, I would have to really double check about the adult and dislocated worker. But for that measurable skill gain, is there going to be some kind of notification saying that this needs to be updated if it go past a year?
I don't know if we have that rule. I know it's something you need to do. I don't know if we have that rule. And measurable skill gain, MSGs are on the same outcome page. They're right here.
Yeah, because I know you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it also ties into the performance as well. I'm just curious, it would be good to have an indicator so staff know, hey, you need to update this. And
Yeah, that would
sometimes,
be good. No, that would be good, Robert. We could put an indicator at that spot there that says, "Hey, the system can't find one for this program year."
right,
Program
something
year,
that,
right?
Yeah, it'd be nice if the system told the career planner or reminded the career planner that they're in the measure and the deadline to enter is.
yes, we got to have something because we want it to be user friendly so the staff, the career advisors know, oh, I got to get this updated. And so many times I got to go into the performance, run report, find out which one, and then download it into an Excel spreadsheet, then send it out and say, hey, these need to be updated.
Yeah.
I just need something a little bit more
So
quicker.
we'll have a dashboard row that easily shows like these are all the customers that are on the hook for an MSG they've entered a service that don't have one and can filter it by program year.
That's true. Yeah, good
Oh,
point. Yeah, that could be a line on our dashboard. I don't know if folks have understand the dashboard is like in iPads, but there's a line and then there's a number of for an individual career planner. There's a number of folks that are in that category. You click that, and there's all the customers that have that particular issue. So that will show up on a dashboard.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
that it needs to show up on the screen that you're on, Al, because that's the transition. So, like by that point, um, if they needed an MSG, they should have needed that, while they were active in the program. I mean, I think
correct.
it's okay to have something, but I don't really know that it needs to be on the transition
I mean,
page.
even the fact that there would,
Yeah.
if there was a missing date, you'd be like,
Yes.
right? You would say,
Mhm.
well, I don't know why there's a missing date there. We haven't added that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
However,
point.
some of them can earn an MSG in follow-up.
Which is
Yep, you're right.
true.
That's true. Yep, you're right. A lot of the youth, and I think all of them. Yep.
Okay. Well, but this should be that dashboard. This should be a dashboard element. All right. So I just want to give you a sneak peek of this today. Hopefully, when we get a little closer to it, when you think, as you go, or if in the weeks ahead when we're talking, if you guys think about that a little bit more, that those of you that are doing a lot of exit work and all that, don't hesitate to bring it up. But we wanted to kind of give you a preview of something we're starting to build. All right, thank you. Somebody's up, Paul?
Yeah. So I had a few questions. One
Sure.
is regarding the exit. So when it's looking at the exit dates, is it looking at the goals and objectives and when they ended or when a service ended?
Well, the service is tied, has to be tied to goal and objective, correct?
Okay. So
So,
if
so you
so,
really have to look at the service date um, ending because it'll be tied to the goal objective.
okay, because I thought you had mentioned it the other way around when you were explaining it. So I misheard. And then the other thing is there's active services and non-active services. So like right now in the current IWADs, it's really difficult because it looks at non-active services as a last service date. So you can't but when you actually go to exit, it goes back to an actual active service. So for instance, then you can't put in a follow-up service
Right?
from the exit date. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So is that going to be figured out somehow? Because like right now, if we exit a person to November, let's just say,
You're talking
30th.
about a planned service date? Today you don't have planned service dates, right? You have a special service that you use, I think, or something. But
I think he's talking about like the same day, the services that are actually counted as services, like in the current IWDS incentives and supportive
right.
services aren't considered services per se when it comes to the exit date. And so if that is entered in the record after the actual service that took place, say for example, occupational training is the one that happened, I see it the most. Say their training ended today, but then someone processed a supportive service sheet tomorrow. The exit date that it's going to calculate would be today. However, the system's not going to let you enter a follow-up service until after that supportive service date. But I believe, Paul, that's going to change now because there's no longer same day services in the new system, if I'm correct. So I think
Yeah,
that
no, we
should
have
fix
same day
the
services.
problem. Oh, it is still same day
We have
services? I
same day
thought there weren't going
services.
to be
Yeah.
a same
Oh,
day
we
service.
have
I
same day
thought that's what they
services
said.
now.
Okay, well, then never
Yeah.
mind.
So yeah,
But
so she explained it just right because when
Mhm.
you have an exit date that's prior to when you have a supportive service that was given or a non-extending participation activity, it won't let you open up
oh
follow-up.
yeah, we have our services all have an indicator that says it's a extending or not extending participation
Okay.
date. So the system will know of those services if it causes an extension or not, or you know what I'm saying? So it will not use that to calculate the 90 days.
And then for the follow-up and occurrence page or screen that you had,
Yeah,
um, does it give a ping to indicate that an update is needed for a follow-up?
right. It gives you the date. Hold on, let me get to where I'm at. Right over here. Okay. For this one here.
Yeah. Does it give a ping? Because I mean like
Oh, like you want a notification or a dashboard or something like that.
right, because they're exited, right? And so then like like right now we go in and we run a report, right? To
Yeah, I'm
see
assuming we'll have that on our dashboard also to say these folks, uh, we're coming to, and maybe before like a
okay.
green, yellow, red indication too that says, hey, we're coming up to a point where you haven't like you're 215 and that we don't see anything here. You're 217. Hey, by the way, and then by the way, you're over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we would do. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, would the follow-up line will be added if the person is not exit? Would that still happen and or no? Or would it be blocked to say, hey, for follow-up service to begin, you got to be exit or no?
Uh, I don't think for youth you have to be exited, right? You can start follow up.
But for adult, no, because for follow-up for adult and dislocated, I believe that starts at time of employment, which is
Well, that would still be, that could potentially be before exit though.
right, exactly.
Maybe I got it
Right.
reversed. Maybe I have it reversed.
Yeah,
You
because
can-
we got to watch how that plays because do we want to put that follow-up service in if they're still engaging in training?
no, we can't. It's got
Okay,
to be
that
after.
we
Yeah,
can't have those two activities crossing each other.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And one more thing I didn't say about this, Paul, Paul, there's one more thing that
Yeah.
you can bring back to that question you're going to bring. If we do this opt out, then what we're going to do is gray out the remaining by rules, or obviously, but we're going to gray out the remaining rows and make them just, disabled, so to speak, but we're going to leave them there. We're just going to gray them out and leave them there. But that's what I was trying to indicate from this. These two rows here would be then grayed out. Okay.
Then I have two final questions. One
Yep.
is you have that add occurrence button there. So like our local policy for youth, we have to do follow-up every 30 days. So we can add every 30 days, correct? By just doing that
Correct.
add occurrence.
Correct.
Okay.
Your local policy is an addition like you every 30 days throughout the year or the first quarter?
No, like for the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure we can add one every
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and then the final one is for the follow-up activities. How will this work if they're co-enrolled in youth and adult or dislocated worker program or all three?
Um, we have to go by the rules. We have to start X at the last, at whatever's the later one, right? If I remember the rules, I don't.
Man, bold. I see what Paul's saying about colon rolling in multiple titles because you can't add follow up in 1A, 1Y, 1D. That's not logical. Is I guess what we're trying to figure out if we do the follow up, how was the transition over to the rest to say is being done?
Right, because they're all going to be exited at the same time. So it would
Right.
make sense that,
Latest exit date.
right, but so it would make sense that it's the one that would be the latest, right? Which is usually probably going to be youth, but on the adult side, if they're not in occupational training or anything, let's say everything is completed and they get employment, but they're still being served on the youth side a little bit, right? And they're not ready for
Right.
exit, but they start employment on the adult side. That's technically when adult follow-up is supposed to start.
I don't think we should do that. I mean, the follow up shouldn't because they're still active regardless of what title they in. Um, now you can't do that.
Well, but right, but what I'm saying is that's policy, right? So on the
Yeah, but that
adult side,
policy is open for discretion as well. So you got to use your discretion to make sure, like, hey, this you actually could show where this person is being served in another title. And those policies sometimes come up where they want to be some kind of discretion, but when you have something to justify the reason of what you're doing, it's acceptable.
Yeah. I mean,
Doesn't
just thought
exit,
go ahead.
don't they have to have a common exit, so they would exit both programs at the same
Correct.
time.
right?
Yes.
But the exit would be the common thing, right? But adult side and the youth side have two different follow-up policies.
Hmm.
So on the youth side, the follow-up would always start after exit date, right? Whereas on the adults and dislocated worker side, follow-up can start prior to the exit date because the rule is they have to start follow-up when they have employment.
Right.
Yeah, but that's okay.
So if you're saying, you know what, if you're co-enrolled, you take the latest one. It doesn't matter if the adult has employment or not. It starts when youth are exited, youth side is exited, which triggers the exit. But the adult could be employed for 3 months already, right? So there would not be follow-up showing in the system at all for 3 months until the exit of the youth side is done, right? Which triggers the exit for everyone. And
We'll
then
get clarification from policy, Kelly T, if you can note that, specifically when co-enrolled in adult and youth, because those policies on follow-up are different. So is there a specific cadence that needs to happen, or is that up to local discretion and the needs of the customer? And we can get that defined.
And you could put case notes to justify the 1D side where you could put case notes saying you're doing follow-up service within the case note. There you go. You're already justifying that you are following policy. The activity itself doesn't need to be in there, long you show just that you're doing it in the case note. Now, for the 1Y, if you do the 1Y, then and whenever you exit, say you exit him 6 months after his employment, that's when it's going to kick in again. Now you got to look at it, Paul. That follow-up going to start, right? If you start that thing up, you can't have somebody follow up for 18 months. If you're kind of getting what I'm trying to say here. So if you got it in case notes, you find when you started in the youth, you just got that 1 year, and then you could transition that case note into that and just keep on going without having that activity.
Well, here's my question though. Hold on a minute. Are we saying, and I'll have to ask the policy folks, but are we saying you cannot add a follow-up? You just said you're going to do follow-up and you're going to add in the case note, right?
Yeah, you could do it in a
Why
case
can't
note.
you do follow-up in an occurrence here for the adult side? What does it matter?
Doesn't matter if you just got to look at if you got follow-up in 1D, 1Y going to require you to put that 1Y in as well. So now you're going to have two follow-up service line in, one for 1D and one for 1Y.
Right. That's okay.
Now, yeah, how long you want to end it? So maybe you should check the policy. If you started in 1D
we will
6
check it
months,
just to make sure.
If you started at 6 months and the person ended 1Y 6 months later, does 1Y require you just to do 6 months of follow-up to meet that 1 year qualification?
Yeah. We'll check that. I'll come back. I'll get back to you on that one because I don't know if they not allowing us to do this until exit, or I think we can't. I mean, adults always this way. You're going to do follow-up potentially an adult. If I was just in one program, I would do follow-up an adult before exit.
Right. Correct.
So that's not a condition of this particular page I'm showing you that you can only go here and after exit. You'll be coming here at follow-up before even you exit. Now, which is different than today, I believe. Today, you have to put in a case note because you can't start any of that follow-up, capturing follow-up until you initiate the exit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But you're
I think
going to
we'll
get
be
all
able to
the
do it here
get.
fine. We can do it here fine, I think. I just got to find out. Let me just
find out,
Al,
because then
yeah,
this will clarify for everybody in Illinois, because we got everybody doing everything a little bit different with follow-up. But we got some, we got local area policy as far as the first 30 days, then after that, every quarter until the 1 year period. So the better clarification you can find out, you and Oliver can find out, that would be
I will.
That would be great.
I will. Thank you. We're a little bit over, so I don't keep everybody any longer, but
now you want to stop
on
now.
this.
See, I thought we were going to stay till noon.
All right. Thanks a lot. And appreciate all your input. Really do. That's what we want. Have a good one.